Mr. Engle?
Before I vote on this motion, I need to make a short statement. I hope you will indulge me. These are my recollections of the events in the past 8 to 10 months. This began last fall when the mayor presented the council an investigation of the finance director conducted by Mr. Engle. The mayor told us that the investigation was undertaken by Mr. Engle without his direction. And based on the investigation that Mr. Engle had started, he was seeking the support to terminate the finance director. He said that he'd only terminate the finance director if a majority of council would support the termination. We obviously had a long meeting. The information caught me totally blind because as president of the council, the mayor had never discussed this with me at all. It wasn't his requirement, but it caused me to pause. That I'd sat through many council meetings hearing the praises of Mr. Svab. In fact, it reached the point of ad nauseum for me. I felt, okay, the guy's doing a good job. Let's get on with the meeting and get home to our family. I don't need to hear that he's doing a good job. You heard last night that Mr. Svab had received merit raises in all the years that he'd been here. And it was my understanding that there was a maximum. It's only my understanding. I'm sure if that's wrong, it will be corrected. At that meeting, which Ms. Garrow referred to, the consensus was that council, while concerned, felt that the additional documentation needed to be presented and asked the mayor to present additional documentation. And that was my understanding that would be done. And shortly thereafter, a day or two, Mr. Svab was terminated. At the time of the termination, there was no further direction or comment from the law department. I'm not criticizing the law department for that position. But I was president of the council, and I knew that the charter required that the majority of council support such a termination. The last speaker mentioned that council was treading on the mayor's authority too often, but yet the charter does require that majority of council support any termination. So I made a motion because nobody was doing anything about it. That motion was rejected. Mr. Svab was brought back and then almost immediately terminated again. I was also the one who made the original motion to have an investigation. And as part of that motion, I asked members of council that they should submit recommendations of who they wanted to conduct that investigation. The vision that I had was that we would sit down and have a meeting, interview people, and make a decision. Later on, council did in fact vote to allocate funds for such an investigation, but then the administration did not issue POD in order to pay for that. So council's majority council members, including myself, did in fact invest our money to make an investigation that I felt was necessary, that I felt the majority council had passed, and that the mayor refused to have the purchase order prepared. I don't spend my money cheaply or quickly. It was a big decision I felt was necessary, and that's what I did. Back to the interview process. Almost immediately, council members, and I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm criticizing anyone and telling you I've made mistakes. Never said I was perfect. But first of all, there were members of council who all had concerns that I think somebody was going to try to bring the deal. So first, people from Cuyahoga County were not acceptable. Then people from Summit County were not acceptable. People from Medina were not acceptable. People from Portage County were not acceptable. And finally, I was told people from Stark County were unacceptable. You go find someone. Well, as many of you know, I'm an attorney. My practice in all of northeastern Ohio, the majority of my work are in those counties. I I graduated from the Akron Law School. Most of my contacts for the last, I can't believe it, 30 plus years I've been a lawyer, started with the Akron Law School. Most of those graduates from the Akron Law School practiced in counties of Cuyahoga, Summit, Medina, Portage, Stark. Geez, none of those are acceptable to anybody. My frustration grew and grew and grew, and I did what a lot of people who are frustrated did, and I was wrong probably. I didn't take any action because I knew it was a mission of failure. And I should have done more. I should have figured it out, but I didn't, and I couldn't. And I apologize to the citizens of this city that I didn't or wasn't able to find a solution to that problem. Many years I've been on council, I have always prided myself in I can come up with a solution, at least most times. Now we're now here to vote on whether or not to support the termination of Mr. Svab yet for a second time. We've had numerous investigations, reports of investigators, none of which have completely answered all of my questions. And that's probably my fault too, because I don't believe as a council member, I have a right to direct an investigation. The investigator knows what the issue is. I'm not going to tell him to go to A, to point B, to point C. I'm going to say, this is the problem, go bring it to me, and I step out of it. People aren't happy with the way the investigations were handled, but they were not directed or steered by David Engle in any way. I've lost a lot of friends over the years as a council member by voting my consciousness, and it begins to wear on me, and it's probably reached the point where it's getting a little raw. I suppose I lost votes when I voted not to terminate Mr. Svab the first time, and I know that in a few more minutes I will lose more friends. I'm getting used to losing friends whenever there is a heated issue. I was elected because I promised I'd vote my conscience. I still vote my conscience. And I'll continue to vote my conscience until the end of my term, or if I run for re-election, I'm not re-elected. That's something for another day. I don't understand why people in Macedonia, members of council, members of the administration, can never accept that one is merely voting for what they believe is right, but rather they attribute some ulterior motive, some sinister plot, some deception. This morning I received an email from a concerned member of the administration. He asked that that be kept confidential, and I will. But it's reached the news level. He accused me of being a group to finance the higher character assassination. He said that Homeland Security looks at financiers of terrorism, I'm a terrorist now, because I vote my conscience, as being more guilty than suicide bombers themselves. The implication is that Homeland Security should investigate me for terrorism. That really upsets me. He said that if Mr. Svab was not removed, the city would begin criminal charges against him. Certainly I know John Bolden, the police chief I respected, I've known for years, and I met him first when I was the magistrate, isn't part of that plan, but that's what's being said. And I know that Mayor Severin, the prosecutor I've worked with for years, and starting when I was a magistrate, isn't part of that plan, but they need to know that these things are being said. The thing continued attacking my judicial demeanor and seeming to suggest that if I didn't support the termination of Mr. Svab, I was not fit to be an attorney. That really upsets me. I am the first generation of my family to go to college. I worked hard to go to law school. I am extremely mindful of the sacrifice of my parents. I apologize for but to attack my ability as an attorney to persuade me to make a particular vote is reprehensible to me. I can only vote my conscience, and I will continue to do that. The email was sent to me on a private email, and it was sent to me on my private email. I know under city policy, and I normally, when I receive private emails, merely copy that to Josephine, only so that it's on the server since it is public record. I'm not sure if I should do that or not. Mr. Deemer, if you would direct me on how I should handle that, I would appreciate your input.
Be happy to look into it.
To it.
I'm not going to do it for vengeance. I'm only going to follow the law department. Mr. Deemer?
Well, then I think you should use your conscience. You should do what you think is right.
But you're the law director.
I don't make a decision on what you determine to be a public record.
I'm asking you. The reason we are here today is not because council has refused to follow the charter. The reason we are here today is because the mayor refuses to follow the charter. The charter requires the majority of council, but yet the mayor refuses to bring Mr. Svab back. I think I've said enough. I have to vote no. I'm not happy, as I said before, with any of the investigations, but I'm satisfied that my vote is my time.